Hi everyone, it's Adam with Milo's Restoration and Francie's Construction, and today I'm going to be doing a West Elm furniture dupe. Basically, I'm not a huge person for those kinds of videos typically, but this is a Christmas present for a family member, and there was like a West Elm style kind of reeded media cabinet that they saw that they wanted, and it was like $2,000 or something like that. So I was like, well, I'll make it. And so I simplified the design a little bit. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm cutting, just imagine it's going to be two long pieces of plywood and two short pieces that will kind of make like a long rectangle box. And here I'm dadoing in the support dividers that will kind of make up the the center dividers of the cabinet as well as the end panels. So basically I just have a undersized router bit and I'm just making a dado 3/8 inches deep for that 3/4 inch plywood, and then I use this straight edge to do the ones in the middle. So I did this on both sheets of plywood, and then after that I dadoed out a section for the 1/4 inch back panel on the router table, as well as cutting all of the dividers for the shelves, which is what I'm doing here. And all of this is pre-finished plywood, by the way. Just import 3/4 pre-finished plywood. The back is going to be 1/4 inch pre-finished. So when I glue up my cabinets, I also build cabinets. I typically build face frame cabinets and paint grade stuff. So this is a little bit out of the norm for me. And to be honest with you, I haven't been doing cabinet construction for very long. So I generally speaking like to use these square clamps or something like that. If you have the woodpeckers one, all better to you. I'm sure they're a lot better quality, but this works good enough for me. If you're doing inset doors, everything needs to be extremely square. So one also a good reason why I like pre-finished plywood is because it just makes the cleanup of this a lot easier, the glue squeeze out and everything. And whenever you're painting, you don't have to worry about it as much. So that's just one thing to consider too. So basically, I just kind of put all the dividers in roughly where they go, and I'll shoot some 18 gauge nails in the bottom to just kind of hold the pieces while I put the top on. Then I'll just kind of put glue on everything at the top, drop it on, and then just kind of deal with the mess that it makes. I really wish there was a better way to do this. If you have two people, that's really the best way to do it. But for the purposes of what I've got going on here, it worked out okay. I think I probably would have done it a little bit differently because that all the way that cabinet to the left, that that cubby or whatever you want to call it, did get out of square. And I'm not exactly sure why. I think I cut everything to the same size and all of that, you know, good stuff. But for whatever reason, it just was a little bit out of square, and I kind of had to fight the door to get it on whenever I built it later. So, like I said, this was around Christmas. I tried to keep all my footage together, but basically, this is me finishing the case. I filled the edges, and where typically you would put edge banding, I think it's better to put edge banding, and then I put primer on. I used Centurion's 1111 primer, and I used their their 1K acrylic top coat in the color Swiss Coffee, and that's going to be the color of the cabinet. So I did the case like this, and I did 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of top coat, and I sanded with 300 or 400 grit in between every coat. And when I was done with it, I just moved it out of the way and then started working on the doors. But also something to consider here, you know, if you don't have access to Centurion coatings or you don't have the stuff that you need to apply it, you can also use something like Sherwin-Williams Gallery. I think would give you a very similar look. I had some legs left over from another furniture project. I just used them. They're just like these gold kind of mid-century sofa legs, and I liked them. I think they added a nice touch to the project, and I just used number 8 or number 10 screws, drilled a pilot hole, and then screwed them in. So I'm going to kind of summarize what I did for the doors. Basically, I actually had to make the doors twice because I made them out of solid cherry. That's what I'm cutting in these pictures here. And they warped. Whenever I went home for Christmas, I ended up just kind of leaving the doors on the concrete, and they bowed up too bad to be saved. So I remade them out of MDF, doing the exact same principles as I'm showing you here. Basically, I just cut multiple strips that were the same size as the Yoniko, I'm pretty sure the name of the brand is, fluting router bit that I had gotten off Amazon. You're going to see that a little while later. And basically, I just made it the same size as that, and then in multiple passes on the router bit by raising and lowering it to align it with the flutes. I was able to make a bunch of little fluted strips that I glued up to make my door. Now, obviously, if you have a CNC machine, you could just make a whole sheet of flutes and then just cut your doors out from that. Don't have one of those, and I don't really plan on getting one soon. So this method works fine, you know. There's the bit. You can kind of see what I'm talking about here. It has those flutes on it, and basically, for the reeded door style, this is what you need to make it. You need something similar. You know, you can get different patterns and stuff, but you cut it on one side, and then what I'll do is I'll flip the board over and move the bit down to cut the rest of the piece for the reeded door, and then I'll take the measurements of my door and I'll, you know, glue them up out of the pieces that I have. So I just use the standard hinges, you know, inset hinges from Home Depot or Lowe's or whoever typically. And I just use the jig. I set the, I think typically I set the offset to like 4. If you're familiar with this jig, you'll know what that means. Pretty sure it's like a 4mm offset for the hinge from the side of the door. And typically that works for me, but you need to check with your hinge and make sure that you follow the instructions. And then after I had the holes drilled, I started painting these doors. So like I said, these are MDF doors that I made in the exact same way as I made those cherry doors. I just, because they warp so bad, I just couldn't end up using them. But yeah, I painted everything, and then I actually have some film in here of me painting the cherry doors too. But it really doesn't matter. They're interchangeable. They were the exact same size. And yeah, so I do use my cup gun, even though I'm using the same kind of paint whenever I'm using the 1K acrylic top coat. And that's because it's just easier to spray small quantities of paint. You don't have to wash out an airless sprayer every time. And so when I'm just spraying something that's lying down vertically, I can really just load the paint up. So even if I get, bubbles and stuff like that from the cup gun, they'll settle out. One thing I wish I had more footage of is me straightening these doors up. So basically, this is a 1/4 inch reveal, and I put magnet catches to basically serve as the stops for the door. So there's a 1/4 inch space in between the basically the the kind of case of the cabinet and the doors all the way around, and you just use the adjustment screws to kind of even that out. You just need to take your door thickness and where your hinge sits and account that, and basically I'll just make a pencil line and I'll put a frameless inset hinge in on the case and then put my doors on. I didn't use the other things from the magnetic catch because I had these handles that were going on, and these are like the no route kind, so like you don't have to router these in necessarily. So basically they're very skinny at the top, so they kind of just fit into the gap of the reveal. And after I got these on, that was really it. I just have to kind of set up the cabinet a little bit more. I'll use tape as like a temporary pull for inset cabinets because I can't get them back out, obviously. So here I'm kind of just adjusting one of the cabinets a little bit. I just try to make the gap as consistent as I can all the way out around. Like I said, I'm no inset pro, but I guess that's part of this being a little bit of a dupe DIY project. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think this cabinet turned out pretty well. And if you like this video and want to see more content like this, please subscribe. And I can answer any questions in the comment section that you might have about it, or how to go about this project if you're a little bit intimidated by it. But yeah, I love this piece. I would definitely make this again. The only thing that I would do is I'd use a different bit because the flutes tend to break because they're so small. I had to throw away a lot of pieces because of that. And, I'm not using a CNC, so I might never get it perfect, but this is what I came up with. So thank you. Please subscribe if you can. It helps me a lot. And please tell me what you want to see more of. Thank you.